record button. So then,
Okay, sounds good.
okay, go ahead, Robbie.
So the first question we have for you is, how have you adapted to today's society with, the COVID-19 going on?
Well, I think it's kind of a crazy year. I was just talking to my wife last week that I think I feel more pressure coaching this fall than I have. That sounds crazy coming from a college football coach, than I do in most falls, because you show up every day. You got to look at your list. Every one of our kids got to fill out this app every single day. And if he's got any symptoms, he automatically gets put in quarantine. His roommates get put in quarantine. If he forgets to fill out the app, he can't practice the next day. Even in the dorms, if a kid walks in the wrong dorm, he gets suspended for 2 weeks. So it's a constant juggling. And all we're doing is doing individual and practice twice a week. But I'm constantly looking at lists. I'm constantly disciplining kids for not doing things that don't allow them to practice. And so it's been a lot of pressure kind of as a coach to kind of wade your way through this pandemic thing, because all we're trying to do is, let our guys practice and have a good football experience. But for them to have a good football experience or college experience, as you guys probably know, is pretty challenging this fall, because the college experience is so much different and the football experience is so much different. So it's been a very challenging fall as a coach, just because, the stuff, it's funny, the stuff that I used to get emails or calls from it, if a kid all of a sudden maybe went out and maybe got in trouble for doing something, a college kid would normally do. Now I'm getting contacted and calls because our guys are in the student weight room spotting each other, and they're not allowed to spot each other because it's against COVID regulations. So it's just been a whole crazy kind of fall that, that we're trying to work our way through.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you think that's kind of been probably the biggest challenge for you and the team, is just trying to adjust and kind of adapt to everything going on?
Yeah, it's just, like I talk to our guys all the time, and the one thing I think that I do think is, I think they'd rather be at school bored, kind of sitting in the room doing classes, practicing a couple times a week, trying to get a lift in here or there. Hopefully they're not being quarantined. A lot of times you're getting quarantined for a guy that has sniffles. It's not even, it's not like they actually have it. But I think they'd rather go through that process, it seems like, than be at home, sitting in the room, taking classes, and being bored at home. So I think there's a trade-off for our kids, like being at school. But I know the college experience is dramatically different than the norm of what most kids expect in college and have in college.
Right, absolutely. That's something I've noticed is, like, you guys are lucky enough to be actually on campus and everything like that, where a lot of schools, they just went completely remote, or they went half remote, stuff like that. So it's definitely good for, I'm sure you guys are happy that you guys are actually able to be on campus.
Yeah, no question. Like my oldest son is a junior at Central Connecticut. He's an engineering major. If I come home and change after we had a rainy practice today, I came home today at 10 and we practice in the mornings from like 8 to 10 in the morning. But we practice, I come home, and every single day I come home to change or come home for lunch, he's here sitting in his room taking classes. So I know at least my youngest son, who's a freshman at Western, he plays football, he's a receiver for us. I know my youngest, his college experience, even though he's on campus, even though he's pretty bored, even though he's taking classes online, is much better than my son at home, who's basically just sitting in his room staring at the wall almost every day.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, at Nichols, where it's called like high flex. So basically, we have classes like 2 days a week, or one like class 2 day a week. So one day we're in person, and one day we go from our rooms. So it's an interesting.
That's not bad.
But it's definitely better than staying at home, because finishing last semester at home was definitely a challenge. It's adapting to everything.
What's interesting is we'll visit one or two kids a day recruiting wise. So we've had a handful of kids on campus, and I always ask them the same question, kind of, what's your high school, what are you guys going, hybrid, are you guys going staying at home? And every single kid's pretty much, we're hybrid, we're 2 days in school, 3 days at home. And I always ask them, so which one do you like better? And only one kid has said, "Hey, I'd much rather be doing online than sitting in class."
Yeah.
So I do think what's going to come out of this pandemic, at least academically, I think kids are going to appreciate sitting in the classroom a little bit more, as opposed to sitting on a computer and trying to learn from a teacher that's just learning how to teach on. So I think there is something hopefully long-term wise comes out of this kind of uh, like, hey, I like going to school and I like being a student. Hopefully it comes out of this.
Yeah, I can definitely see that being a possibility. I can relate to that myself as a student. And then the next question is more football related. So obviously you've probably had some more time on your hands due to the season, probably being postponed and practices being limited. So with that being said, have you added any, new plays or schemes or anything like that since you've
Well,
had?
what's funny is every coach in America is on all these Zoom calls. Like usually most Thursday nights, we're not doing this Thursday. I'm usually on a Zoom call with one of my good friends who's the head coach up of the CFL team, a coordinator from a 1AA team down in Texas, a coordinator from a 1AA team in New York City area, and like two other coaches. And all you do is talk football. You kind of all these ideas, you share ideas. You're looking at all these scenarios, and really that's all what coaches have done this whole for 3 or 4 months. And we're in the process of breaking down an NFL team. I get NFL Game Pass, so we're uploading one of their coaches cut, and as a staff we're breaking them down one game a week and analyzing what they do, and they're a spread style NFL team, so we hopefully going to get some ideas from there. So yeah, I think you're always trying to improve what you do. You're always trying to get ideas, and I've really been running the same system since 2007. So we run a system of football. So we're always looking for something that's not just necessarily a random play, but something that fits into what we do specifically. So yeah, we definitely have a game plan, and I think we've come out of this, and we've been able to do a little bit on the field with our guys practicing, been able to implement a couple of good wrinkles, I think, to help us move forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think that's a great way to approach it, especially right now. Like, having extra time in your hands, why not take a look at some different things? Why not talk to some other coaches? So that's awesome. So now, kind of getting into your career a little. Obviously, you've had some good success at Western, being the most winningest coach there, having that sustained success ever since after your first season there. So what's kind of been some of your keys for having that sustained success while at Western?
Well, what's interesting is my third head coaching job, and really I've kind of taken over three pretty bad programs and what I've taken over, and I kind of use the same philosophy at all of them. And really, I think you got to recruit the best student athlete you can recruit. You know what I mean? Within the parameters of the school, because normally the most talented team wins week in and week out. And then you have to retain them. You know what I mean? We've had 20 to 25 seniors, I think 6 straight years. And I'm sure as you guys have won the last 2 years at Nichols, your senior classes have gotten bigger. And I think to win at any level, you need to have big senior classes. So we've always had 20 to 25 seniors pretty consistently, really since I think my third year or fourth year.
Wow.
And then so it's recruiting, it's retention, and with retention we got a unique but very, very successful academic program that we do with our kids. Then it becomes development, and development is strength conditioning, having a year-round strength conditioning program and a leadership program where we try to develop our kids, on the field, off the field. And then the last thing is X's and O's, and we believe in system football. We're going to run a system of football on offense, and that system will change year to year to adjust to our talent. But it's not we always say this, it's not a random collection of plays thrown together. It's a system built from A to Z that can adapt to our players, really offense, defense, and special team wise. So really, it's like I said, it's recruiting, it's retention, it's development, and then football, and kind of in that order.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, so along with that, obviously the off season is a big part to a lot of team success. So what kind of off season work do you usually expect from your athletes at Western?
Well, I think it's probably the same as everywhere because everyone has their fall, and then in the spring everyone gets 5 weeks of practice, and then we just try to get it just like everyone, we're going to lift for the 9 weeks before the 5 weeks of spring practice, and then we'll do spring practice for 5 weeks, usually in a typical year, and then we'll have exit meetings and stuff and get them out of there. And then once again, we'll try to develop our guys with some strategic, true leadership programs, kind of a 3-year leadership program that we kind of implement with the two, and really do it every year, and kind of repeat the process. And if there's something we can do better the next year, we'll change any part of that and try to tweak it and make it better every year.
Yeah,
Yeah, for
definitely. Definitely. So, as I mentioned earlier, you know, one thing we like to do is kind of get out as much recruiting advice for a lot of the athletes we train. We train a lot of high school athletes who, you know, want to play at the next level. So what are some things that you expect from recruits, and what are some suggestions that you have for high school athletes who want to play at the next level?
Well, I think the first thing, and this may sound obvious or may not sound obvious, is if you really want to play at the next level, you need to put together a good huddle highlight tape. And really, the huddle highlight tape is the starting point of getting recruited by most Division II and III, and even bigger schools a little bit. And within that huddle highlight tape, I would recommend putting obviously your name, your email address, your cell phone number, and your Twitter handle in the first couple things. And then you want to put your best plays at the beginning, because when you're recruiting, you know, a state, say you have the state of Massachusetts to recruit, and you're a coach that might have 250 schools. I mean, you're
Oh, we lost you, Coach. I don't know if you can still hear us. Damn.
We're on a roll.
Fucking A. Can you do me a favor? Can you start the new meeting so that I could stop this and save the video?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then just send me the link, and then I'll forward it to him.
Will do.
Thank you. All right, so we talked about what you expect from recruits and some suggestions.
Yeah, okay, I'll start over with that. Yeah.
Okay.
So really, with recruits, my first suggestion is, if you really want to get evaluated, I think you need to put together a huddle highlight tape. You know, especially from games you've played, and then you want to put your name at the beginning. You want to put your email at the beginning. You want to put your cell phone number at the beginning, and your Twitter handle potentially. And then put your best highlight tapes, because most college coaches at our level and Division II level are going to look at your huddle highlight tape first, and if they really like that, and then especially for a scholarship school and they really like it and want to give you some money, then they'll try to get your game film. But it all starts with your huddle highlight. The interesting thing right now, or the challenge, is, and it's our big challenge in recruiting now, is usually we recruit a bunch of seniors that are pretty good, that maybe have turned into a good player their senior year. Maybe they're behind a starter their junior year, or they shared time their junior year, or just didn't blossom to their senior year. And those kids don't have highlight films. So the challenge for us is how do we find out who is that kid we should be recruiting that maybe didn't have a senior year this year? And it's the challenge for the senior in high school. So my best advice to that is, you know, I think you need to go to your high school coach, and if he thinks you're a pretty good player, I would give him a list of schools that you should look at, and have that coach email those college coaches, say, listen, Billy here is a really good player. You might not have film on him, but I would recommend you recruiting him. And that would help your case tremendously as a high school senior to be with no film. I think we're relying on the high school coaches more than ever. We relied on them in the past. We would walk into, you know, for 2 weeks in December and November, we'd walk into high schools. We'd talk to the coaches. We'd hopefully have names and numbers on them. Want to see these guys. And they'd bring them down, and we started the process. But now we can't even walk into schools. So it's really challenging year for us as coaches, more challenging for the players, because ultimately they have no film and they're not playing games. So it's almost no man's land a little bit this year as far as how recruiting's going.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, absolutely. I can't agree more. I mean, me personally, like I didn't start at quarterback to my senior year, and I really relied on my senior year. It's like I can't even imagine some of these kids. Like there's a few that we train that, they sat behind a really good quarterback in front of them, and they were relying on starting this year. So yeah, it's definitely tough for them. Got to feel for them.
In some ways, we think as coaches, we may be able to find like some kids that potentially were scholarship type kids that ultimately didn't get one because they're not going to put money into a kid they have no film on. So there's some truly hidden gems out there. I also think it may be a whole lost recruiting class where a bunch of kids that may have started their senior year and then, man, I love this. And like yourself, then I want to play college football. Well, shit, they didn't even play their senior year. They got no games potentially. They talk about the spring. We hope we're playing the spring. Might not be a spring, as far as how things are going. So it'll be interesting to see how many kids end up not even playing college football this year because things just don't work out for them.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so you were talking about your senior classes have been pretty loaded lately. So with that being said, do you have a team in most recent couple of years that has been your favorite? And if so, what distinguishes them compared to the other teams?
I would think my favorite team is the 2013 team because just a little history of of my situation. I took over like a 23 game losing streak at Western Connecticut. So our first year, we're in another conference called the NJAC. And so our first year, we only won one game, but we were pretty competitive. We beat Montclair State, who was a real good team. We were beating Rowan at halftime. And we could have won 4 or 5 games, but it's hard to turn around a team. And then we switched to the MASCAC, which is not as good as the NJAC, but it's still a pretty good conference. And we were picked 6th, in my first year, we were picked 6th out of 8 teams. And we won 8-2 that year, went to a bowl game, beat Salve in a bowl game, which is a real good team. And just the emotion from that game, when we beat Montclair State, it was crazy because I was not there for a 23 game losing streak. I was there for a handful of games they lost before we beat them. And I've never been involved in a game with more emotion when we won that, where kids were crying like they were crying. School administrators were crying. It was just the most emotional game. And then to be part of a team that went from lost 20 some games in a row to going 8-2 in a season and winning a bowl game was definitely a memorable season, kind of a team I'll never forget.
Yeah, that really makes sense.
Yeah, I can imagine just the way you described that. I mean, I can just kind of picture, the amount of emotion that went into that, especially for probably that senior class. They were probably a part of that,
question.
Right? They're probably a part of that whole losing streak. So I can't even imagine.
Yeah, we did like the impossible. They like, how did this even happen? How did we go from this to this? And once again, I think as a head coach, you come in with expectations of winning, and we're winning. I'm like, okay, we're winning. And I don't want to say you take winning for granted, but you take the expectation of winning for granted. And so it was when the season ended. I really, you're obviously really close with all the seniors. We only had 8 seniors that year. We talked about having 20 to 25. I think we had 8 seniors that year, and all those kids really had a tremendous experience their senior year that they'll never forget.
Yeah, that's huge. That's definitely huge. So just kind of going off of that too. Obviously, I'm sure you have a ton of different options, but is there a certain player that kind of stood out as one of your favorites? Not just because of the way he played, but maybe because of some things, just the type of person he was, leader, anything like that.
We got a guy named Will Arndt, who it was interesting when I took over. Will was actually a receiver, and here's an interesting story about Western Connecticut. The last coach got let go in December, and I got hired June 1st. Okay, so there's a 5 or 6 month period, and they retained one coach to do some recruiting, so they did a little bit of recruiting and stuff like that. So I show up in the summer. Literally, the kids are gone. I show up in the summer. I have one kind of meeting in, I guess, middle of June, and maybe 20 kids came back. I introduced myself, and I really met the team August 15th. It was when we reported to camp. And I kept hearing about, we had a quarterback named Jaime Rachi, who was the starting quarterback as a freshman the year before. And there's another kid named Will Arndt that was okay, but they ended up moving to receiver because he was a 6'4" kid. And so But he played receiver, and those were my two quarterbacks coming to camp. I had two kids, two quarterbacks reporting to camp. And I didn't, I tried to recruit some kids in the summer, and, I maybe got a couple kids. It was really late. So we show up for the first team meeting of the year, and in the front row is Jaime Rashi and Will Arndt are sitting in the front row. I give my spiel. We're going to do this. Here's our plan. Meeting ends. Jaime Rashi comes up to me and says, "Coach, I don't think I want to play football anymore." I'm like, "Okay." And I don't know him from Adam, to be honest. So then we go out to practice, and Will's my quarterback. I mean, I had him, and then there's another receiver who ended up moving to quarterback as a backup kid that year. We had two quarterbacks on the whole team the whole year. Actually, the punter. My punter became the backup quarterback. And so we go out to the first practice, and I look around, and I see everyone throwing the ball around, and I see Will and everything. And I after practice, I go up and call a couple of my buddies, in the coaching profession. I said, "I got a scholarship quarterback in Will Arndt. He might be the best quarterback I've ever had." So here's this kid playing receiver his freshman year. Now, Jaime Rashi must have been an NFL guy. I never saw him play because Will Arndt is the kid that really helped turn us around. And Will Arndt started in the CFL last year for the Ottawa Red Blacks. So he's still playing professional football. So part of the reason we were able to turn it around so quick is having a really, really good quarterback. And but he's also a great kid. He's a great leader. He's the hardest working kid. He's that kind of kid. So he's probably what really got us started turning around. And to be honest, Will was, on campus today, the CFL season on pause. So he's around the office right now helping out a little bit too. So great guy to have around, but more importantly, a great cornerstone to build your offense around.
Right. That's awesome. And then just kind of different little topics. So I know you have a kind of a defensive background. So is there a particular scheme that is your favorite or that you've ran over the years?
Well, you know what? It's interesting. As a head coach, I was a defensive coach. Really, I've been coaching since 1991. I think was my first year coaching. And when I became a head coach in 1999, the last time I've coached defense, I guess I did the first couple was probably 2002.
Okay.
So I've really what we run offensively is what I've ran as I always say I'm kind of the architect of the offense. And so I've been on the offensive side of the ball really since 2005, 100%. So, but defensively, I've always been kind of a 4-2-5 guy. We've been running that in some way, shape, or form at Western and at my last school, Otterbein, probably since like 2004.
Okay. And then, throughout your coaching career, I know you said you started in 91. So what's been the most rewarding factors about your coaching career?
It's interesting as you get older, you appreciate different things and different things evolve as a coach. You said your dad's a coach?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yes. So it's interesting. Now I'm to the point now where I don't quite have guys that I've recruited that have kids that I'm coaching, but it's been really rewarding watching the kids that I've coached going all the way back to when I was a really young coach and seeing them now in their 40s. You know what I mean? Having kids, having successful careers, giving back to football and stuff like that. So probably the most rewarding thing is being able to just watch once again, kids I've coached grow up into very successful family men, husbands, fathers, have great jobs, help people. And that's probably been the most rewarding thing is that part of coaching.
Right. Absolutely. Because that's bigger than football. That's the importance of success in life too, which I think football for a lot of people, like including myself, football helps, with every aspect of life.
Yeah, here's a good football story. Like my son, Zachary, who's a junior at Central Connecticut, like he played football a little bit, midget football for a year when he was little, and didn't think he was going to play football as he got older. Then finally in 9th grade, he's like, "Hey, Dad, I want to play." My wife was like, "He ain't playing." You know what I mean? And I'm like, "He's going to play." So he played football. And he went from being a real kind of a bookworm kind of kid with his kind of academic friends and real, I don't want to say antisocial, but not a total social kid, to playing football, being part of this team, to really evolving socially as much as anything. And so I think the game of football is so unique. I think as a dad, like when I raise my kids, me and my wife, we don't yell at our kids a whole lot. They're good kids. They kind of do what they want. But I think it was great for them to get into high school football where all of a sudden someone told them, hey, get behind that line. And then if they're not behind the line, the whole team's running. You know what I mean? So there's,
Hmm.
I just think there's something about football. My wife, after about a year, said, you know what? I'm so happy he's playing football. He just changed so much socially, leadership wise. He just became a different person. And it's just such a unique sport that allows kids to kind of develop in a different way than a typical high school, career does.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then just another kind of going back to some offensive stuff. So do you have a particular player concept that is your favorite?
Yeah, the probably the play that I don't know if I want to be saying this in New England though, but we like to offset the back week. You know what I mean? And then we like to run a little five-step glance route by our X receiver, and read the free safety.
Yeah.
If he stays high, we have with a nub tight end, either weak or strong. And we're going to block 6 with those guys, whether it's zone, whether it's gap, whether it's split zone, whether it's fit zone, and read that free safety. And if he drops, we're going to throw over the top of him. If he stays high, we're going to hand the ball off. And we have a whole series of plays we run off that, and that's probably the starting point of what we like to do as far as our RPO game.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That was one of my favorite concepts as a quarterback myself. We did that the past 2 years at Nichols, so I definitely like that concept a lot myself.
Yeah, so obviously with you being a coach, I assume you have a coach in the NFL at some point or even college that you admire. So who would you say out of all the coaches, throughout your, life, would you say you admire the most?
Probably a guy named Donnie Anderson, and Coach Anderson was my high school coach, and probably the most influential person on my life. And some of the things we do, I still do. I believe in what we call PMA, positive mental attitude. Stuff I got from being a high school player at Painesville Riverside in Northeast Ohio. And really, he was a program builder, a guy that put in systems on offense and defense. A guy, like I said, the coach is a positive guy, and unfortunately passed away last year. But he was definitely the most influential coach in my life. It's the reason I'm coaching today.
Yeah, that's awesome. So he's the reason you're coaching, would you say?
Yep. I would not have got into coaching if I didn't have such a positive experience playing in high school and kind of watching how. And once again, he took over a program, and it's kind of my MO as far as taking over poor programs and turning them around. And he did the same thing in high school. And a lot of the things that I saw happen in front of my eyes as a high school player are the same things that I try to do with my programs, whether it's structure or positivity or just organization. And that's really, I took that from Coach Anderson and have tried to build on it.
Yeah, and also, do you have a favorite, like, who is your favorite, like, player of all time? Like, professional, college, is there any, like, one that's,
Yeah, there's probably guys you never heard of. Probably growing up, there was a guy named Brian Sipe. You guys ever heard of Brian Sipe?
Oh.
I haven't, no.
Yeah, if you were from Cleveland, Ohio, you know who Brian Sipe was. He was the starting quarterback for the Browns in the '70s from the Cardiac Kids and stuff. He actually was, I think, the runner-up. He might have been NFL MVP or runner-up NFL MVP one year, and threw for more yardage than Roger Staubach in the NFL. But he was probably the guy in high school that I looked up to or wanted to be when I grew up.
Yeah, definitely like the hometown.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, you got to be proud of where you're from. I'm a
Exactly.
Northeast Ohio guy, and I'm a Browns guy, Cavs guy, Indians guy. Like I said, you got to be proud of where you're from.
Of course. And then the last question I believe we have is, this is more like a personal question. So out of, coaching football, which is your job, obviously, like, what are some hobbies that you do, to keep yourself entertained?
I always say this, I have 0 hobbies.
Really?
0. I think if you're going to coach football and raise a family, number 2's got to be or it has been for me, is just my family and stuff like that. So I don't golf. I don't fish. I coach football and try to be a good dad is is kind of what I do in my life. So that's it.
Yeah, for sure. But that's that pretty much wraps up all of our questions that we had. Again, we really appreciate you coming on this, taking the time.
Yeah, I apologize for the technical difficulties. Usually I'm better than that with technology and stuff like that. Usually we're really good with technology, but had a little couple of issues tonight. So I appreciate you dealing with that.
Yeah,
No
yeah,
worries.
absolutely. No worries at all.
Now,
No worries at all.
now what's your recruiting area at Nichols?
So I have New Hampshire, Vermont, and then I have some schools in Mass too, just because I'm from here. So
Yeah.
I have I know a lot of coaches around and everything.
So what are you guys doing recruiting wise? What is your guys' process right now?
So we've been allowed to have some recruits on campus, but it has to be scheduled like through admissions and everything like that. So whereas before they wouldn't have to go through admissions, but they have to go through admissions right now, and then they basically they go through like a tour with admissions, and then we just kind of bring them around like the athletic facility and everything like that.
Yeah. So are you able to go watch high school games in New Hampshire or any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we're allowed to do that. I've been able to catch a couple games out there, but yeah, I mean, going to New Hampshire is fine because it's also not like a red zone or anything right like that. So
Yeah. I think the most interesting thing for high school recruits right now is like how many kids at Nichols are coming back for their senior year this year? How many of your seniors?
good amount.
And you just brought in a freshman class that hasn't played, and you're not going to lose as many as those as you usually do. So I'm sure you've had these same talks as coaches. So how many freshmen do you need to bring in this year?
A lot. We're planning on around 30.
And usually it's probably about 50, right?
Yeah, exactly. We had 50 this past class, and we were like, we have to almost cut that in half.
But then you're thinking, well, maybe I don't. Maybe like there's so much unknown. We're thinking the same thing. We don't want to bring in as many freshmen. So I think there's so much unknown for us as coaches as far as, but we don't want to be caught short ever either. But you don't want to have too many. So,
right.
So I think all the coaches are we're so used to doing the same thing every year, following the same pattern, that now all of a sudden we've been thrown a little bit of loop just like everyone else.
Right. Do a lot of your seniors plan on coming back for their
hopefully
fall?
Knock on wood.
I know.
What's funny is as much as you say yours are and I say mine are, I'm both of mine are. Who knows? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So there's so much unknown here as far as a lot of them have said they want to come back, and it's hard to whatever. And I keep telling them whatever's best for you.
Right.
You know what I mean,
we're
hopefully gonna move forward with or without you, but we'd love to have you. But some kids are gonna have to make that decision of moving on with their life too.
Yeah, exactly. Do you guys plan on playing a spring season?
The MASCAC has a 2-game schedule right now. There's already the schedule's already up and everything. So I think we're planning on it, but and I want to play a game, play some games, but I just think it's a matter of, just like everything else, I know the kids in Connecticut were told they could play, then they couldn't play, then they could play, then they couldn't play, then they couldn't, you know what I mean? Then they started an independent league. So I think it's in the situation we're in, I think it's hard to get too optimistic, about playing things, but I definitely want it. What about you guys? Do you guys have a schedule and stuff like that yet, or?
We're supposed to have like a 5-game schedule. Like we would have like one non-conference game, and then we would play 3 conference games, and then the winner of we'd have a North and a South. So the winner of the North would play the winner of the South for the conference champion. But again, who knows?
Yeah, you're 100% sure that's going to happen?
Yeah, that's exactly. That's definitely not 100%. But that's that's what we're hoping for, and that's what the conference is kind of hoping for.
Yeah, that's why, the reason I got a little not as optimistic is, like I said, we were supposed to be like you guys, 2 weeks in helmets, 2 weeks in uppers, go from 10 to 25 to 50 to a full team. And we never got out of 10. So if we're not getting out of 10, and we had 1 case on campus, you know what I mean? We had like no issues on campus, knock on wood. Just a handful of true issues. We had some kids in quarantine because of sniffles and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we never got out of pods of 10. So I'm concerned a little bit in the spring that if you never get out of pod of 10, it's hard to play a game.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
I know, especially like for us too, because we have 21 varsity sports. So just playing all the, who knows, like with the schedules and everything, like all the sports playing in the same season.
Yeah, locker rooms and equipment managers and all that stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how the spring goes. I think most coaches are in some ways realizing that 2021 is I don't know, is more in stone than spring of 2020. I think.
Right. Yeah,
but
exactly.
we definitely want to play. We definitely want to play in the spring, and I mean we're gearing towards and stuff. But I'm more optimistic about being 100% hit the ground running for 2021 at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Wait, how you guys looking though?
I think, like I'll say the same thing. I think we'll be pretty good if we stay healthy. It's the same thing I've been able to say for, last, 4 or 5 years. So if we, once again, if we get our seniors back and, everything, we stay healthy, I think we have a chance, but it's just such an unknown right now.
I know. Exactly. You guys had the same quarterback. He was a starter for the past 2 years, right?
Yeah. DJ, he graduated this year.
Yeah. I remember meeting him when I was there.
Yeah, he's a good kid. We had a good year. We started off 8-0 2 years in a row with him. We struggled a little bit at the end, but what's interesting? We really have almost everybody back but him.
Wow.
So whoever ends up being our quarterback is going to be surrounded by some talented kids around him. So that'll make it easier for whoever's our quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I saw you guys. There's a one of your guys is playing in the spring league right now too, right?
Yeah, Demetrius. Yeah, Demi, our
awesome.
tight end's playing in the spring league. So yeah, we've had some guys. Like DJ was supposed to go over. He was actually over in Austria. Our quarterback was over in Austria, ready to play in Europe this past spring. He was there in like February when the pandemic hit. So he was quarantined over there for like a month and couldn't even get out of the country.
Wow. Yeah.
So he ended up coming back to Connecticut. He played in a semi-pro league this spring, won the championship this past Saturday. Then he's going to head back over to Europe and play over in Europe. So we had a couple guys playing football after. So
right.
And then I think Will's going to, he's got 4 offers from the CFL as far as, his contract. I think they're all 1 years up there, a lot of them. So he's got 4 offers up there to play next year again. So,
wow.
So excited to watch our guys play at the next level,
Yeah. That's awesome.
So we got anything else?
No, I think that's pretty much it. Well, this will be posted probably sometime either this weekend or early next week. So we'll make sure we send you the link and everything like that.
Okay, perfect. Anytime you want me on here, I always like talking about our program and stuff too. So if you ever need me back on here, I'm welcome to come anytime.
Sounds good.
Absolutely. We appreciate it, Coach.
Okay, you guys have a good night.
Thank you. You too.
You too.
Yep.
You want me to stop recording?
Yeah, you can stop recording.